pallet, straw bales, or containers. Struggle makes resourceful. Nobody seems too remorseful. Either way, we gotta eat. That pot too big to eat morsels. Farm to table, we sourcing. Like producers and farmers. Codified when we shopping. Akashic records that calm it. Co-op that susu. Teamwork make the dream work. Light work, no scheme work. Run it back to my feet. Footsteps that code speak. You can code and tell it. Metaphysical act cloth better heat the smoke when you smell it. Fire flame, I'm litty. Any field, no bondage. Million shovels at the same time. Break the ground, pay homage. Gotta correct that spelling. We've been hooked on bad phonics. Even with no soil. H2O hydroponics. You ain't wake up in 20. You in 21 gon' spook you. Digitizing that fiat. I'm planting seeds for the future. My pedigree's resilient. The elements done shaped us. Production over consumption. Transform black consumers to makers. So we shine a light on them papers. I don't judge them, I bet them. Gotta practice discernment. Men that run that game if you let them. Get black to the garden. Get back on assignment. God body in flex mode. That black star in alignment. We ain't never gonna tap out. Ain't never gonna tap out. We ain't never gonna tap out. Ain't never gonna tap out. Oh, we ain't never gonna tap out. Ain't never gonna tap out. We keep growing and growing and growing and growing. No blowing, no backs out. I say it. A million black shovels at the same time. A million black shovels at the same time. A million black shovels at the same time. 4, 3, 2, 1. Game time. Never gonna tap out. Never gonna tap out. Ain't never gonna tap out. Ain't never gonna tap out. Ain't never gonna tap out.
Good morning. Welcome back to B1AG. You heard the song 1 Million Black Shovels in the Ground at the same time. We're trying to encourage our community to get back black to the garden, get back to agriculture, get back thinking about agriculture educational, agricultural marketing, everything agricultural we need to have our minds on. And I like to call our discussions our daily bread. And I have Farmer Brown, the MC, with me. And today we're going back to Bill Gates. Now, Bill Gates was the Microsoft co-founder. You know, he is a technological genius, but now he finds himself more into philanthropy and agriculture. And we're going to talk about that because we know that he just purchased 260,000 acres of some of the premium farmland in the country. But another thing is that he's really pushing for rich nations to shift to synthetic beef. And the purpose of him wanting all rich nations or all nations to shift to synthetic beef is supposed to be in the idea of eliminating greenhouse gas emissions. He is on a mission to drive down these greenhouse gas emissions that are affecting climate change. So, Farmer Brown, we're talking about this daily bread, but are you comfortable with having some synthetic bread on your plate?
Peace, family. And so I think on this one, I'm going to take the compensatory code approach. What is our solution? If I'm not cool with synthetic beef, if you, whoever's watching or listening, aren't cool with synthetic beef, what's the alternative? What is a constructive alternative? What is a better alternative? Hey, man, I can't put on the tinfoil kufi today. I think I'm going to stick to the science today. And so we know right now we're in a nation where food insecurity is at an all-time high because of the coronavirus, because of economic reasons. The food system was disrupted this past summer. When we think about energy consumption, so we have a new administration in office that is a lot more, policy-wise, environmental friendly, in partnership with the rest of the world as far as, reducing energy emissions, things of that nature. And so I think today, I think it will be a good time to have a discussion, almost play advocate versus devil's advocate. Because either way, this spectrum, when we're talking about Bill Gates, his investments, you think about all of the farmland, you think he's invested in plant-based meats. I know just from my experience doing the research circuit that he's involved in the what we'll call pink slime as well. And so what you just brought to me was the synthetic beef. And so what this looks like is none of us are in somebody else's head to know what's driving behaviors, ideologies, so we're left to conjecture. But you can look at it from a strategic standpoint. I'm poised as Bill Gates or whoever would choose to create an alternative. He's poised to affect how human beings on this planet eat for the future. That could be for better or that could be for worse. We'll go with the farmland. So one of the things about B1AG, we want to continue the conversation that's already going on, but you can never say enough about the importance of having land, and not only just having land as an asset, something to sit on, as economics, what can we produce with this land? Right now, of all of the many value-added products and fibers and, beauty products that can be sold from derivatives of the land, I think our food security right now is very important. The fact that we have a new administration in, so like you were saying, a lot of the emissions, the greenhouse gases come from methane. This comes from the livestock that are eating and farting, for lack of better words. Specifically in the black in the B1 family, we know the black farmers, 48% of black farmer revenue is generated from livestock production. And so any deviation away from that, you're cutting into somebody's revenue. Sometimes there are intentional opponents of a faction that you're defending or unintentional. And so once again, we have to be very conscientious about how we have this discussion, how not to look at it so emotionally that we steer away from the jobs. When we think about, and I think this is probably later in the conversation, not just the food production is going on with all of this land that Bill Gates has purchased. You're also, I know we had shared an article about ethanol and the importance of renewable fuel. And so renewable energy goes right into, hey, how do we have a more sustainable food system, which I'm going to introduce this synthetic beef. So I think it lends to a much greater discussion. And I'm looking forward to hashing it out with you, man. I think today I'm going to put on the science cap and be devil's advocate. Because going back to the first question I asked, do we have a better alternative? The optimist in me understands that we have all of the capability and potential in the world to have an alternative, but you also look at everything takes time. Bill Gates didn't jump off the porch yesterday, poised to buy hundreds of thousands of acres of land, poised to have voice, not only in the national movers and shakers, but internationally. Poised to control the computers. He's one of the founders of what we understand as computer technology. And so when we take our personal opinions about what he represents on the planet Earth away, this is somebody that over time put himself in a position to influence these aspects of human activity. And so I think we as conscientious observers and people who are within this ecosystem, it's up to us. Okay, we have these observations of these articles, this new information. What are we prepared to do if in his mind there's something horrible going wrong? It might be the greatest thing in the world that we just haven't thought about. But if it is the greatest thing that he's thought about, we see how big Microsoft and computers have gotten. So I think it also lends for opportunity. Well, hey, if we see he got successful thinking about something early in the computer realm, what if we model this after this farm realm, after this production realm, after this food security and food systems realm? So I think it's a very interesting discussion.
Well, this actually comes from an interview with MIT Technology Review, and they were interviewing Bill Gates about his book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. So the driving force behind the synthetic beef, again, is to decrease the greenhouse gas emissions, but he also has a broader plan to accelerate the shift, including fighting high carbon prices, clean electricity standards, clean fuel standards, and funding more research and development in these areas. So that our food comes into that discussion. Synthetic beef. Why synthetic beef if he's already a proponent for plant-based beef? Like, why even go to synthetic?
Well, let's put this in perspective. I think on our first time we had this B1AG conversation, we were talking about ramen noodles getting us through college, getting us through the grind. Gresham, I mean, that was our diet. Ramen noodles, blacks for breakfast, blunts for dinner, right? Those weren't real noodles. The noodles, as we understand the Italians to make the egg noodles, those aren't real noodles. We know at a time that's what our money, that's what we could afford to eat. We had to eat something, put some sort of sustenance in our bodies, and that's what was available. That was back in the early 2000s, late 1990s. So now we find ourselves with billions of more people on the planet that have that same desire that you and I had. Like, hey, I can't go eat a 3-course meal, but these noodles are accessible. I can afford them. And so when you think about this same dynamic happening now in a post, or I'll say during COVID existence, is synthetic beef the Illuminati, so to speak, or is synthetic beef a savior in communities where, okay, we know we need a certain amount of protein. This is one of the reasons we eat beef. Any organisms that eat meats, it's a certain amount of protein that you get from eating this meat as carnivorous organisms. We're omnivores, using scientific term, we eat plants and meat. But once again, when we think about how this meat is produced, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate. You know how I feel, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate. So I realize you think about the Super Bowl, you think about how many people, took, went out for Thanksgiving, had dinners. You think about Memorial Day, all the steak and meat consumed. Think about Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of these things where we gather around to eat meat. Well, this meat doesn't just appear out of anywhere. This farmland we ride past on the interstate, if you're a person that looks down when you're flying, all of this land is being used for something. It's not just sitting in a void. The majority, like I said, especially in the B1 community, people raise livestock. Cows are a very lucrative business. I'll be honest with you. Most of the farmers who've been able to get into that market, there are, nuances and obstacles that affect it. But if you can work your way in, you have a formidable network, good product. It's a profitable market. Financially, for people on the market for beef, it's great. You have this large network of farmers, white and black, that produce a lot of meat. Well, to produce this meat, this goes into, once again, Bill Gates and all of this farmland. You got to feed these cows. You got to feed this cattle. When it's cold, right now, it's at least 3 inches of snow right now, ice in central Kentucky. So anybody that has cows right now, obviously the cows can't graze. This is wintertime, so it's only so much. Is it eating any grass out there for them? No nutrition. And so a farmer, if you're running an effective livestock production operation, you have to have supplemental feed. You got to keep feeding them, so they're getting energy, getting good and fattened. You're going to have to buy more straw. You're going to have to buy more hay. You're going to have to buy more things that the land don't provide. So all of these go into overhead. This goes into expenses. So saying that to say, not only is it an economic investment that you have to put in, you think about the ecosystem. And so where I live at right now, I can look at my, they're not outside right now, but where I live at, I think has to be about 50 head of cattle next door. This is a relatively small plot because I think the producer, he's rotating them. They rotate. But with this rotation, there's methane. As these cows are eating, they're farting. All of this is going in the air. When you multiply this, say one farm with 50 head to a farm, 1 mile, half a mile down the road, they got another 100 head, and you multiply this across, say, just the southeast of North America. This is a lot of methane going up in the sky. It just is what it is. Methane isn't emotional. It's a chemical reaction to a ruminant animal eating, body processing, and it emits in the atmosphere. When you have a concentration of that, it heats the atmosphere in unnatural ways. This also affects our water quality. And so all of these cows, as they're farting, they're pooping as well. And so within this poop is this same methane. It's the same toxicity that goes into the streams that ultimately flow into wherever we're getting our water from. Like we had talked about a few sessions ago, you know, every bite of what we eat, there's 0.003% of feces, fecal matter, rodent hair, and some form of organic something that we wouldn't want to eat if we knew it was there. But to have a food system where we can just go to a store and purchase, I don't got to go out and hunt, I don't got to go out and fish all day to have a good seafood dinner. I don't have to go catch a cow, slaughter it, process it to have a steak. And so these are the things we give up for the sake of convenience. When we think about the whole B1AG concept, what are we as a people, as a group? So maybe if I'm in New York, obviously I'm not about to just jump off and start raising livestock. Like, where am I going to do this? But do I have a network? You know, we do have social media now where I know some producers down in Texas, the largest state where livestock production, or your Mississippi's. Do I have some connections down there where we can get some sort of network going? These are things we got to think about going into the next 10, 20, 30 years. What kind of networks are we setting up now? We know that these livestock that produce the meat we like to eat, they have to eat too. And as a result of them eating, it affects the ecosystem. Let me come real quick from a political perspective. So a lot of the current administration's environmental policies on, hey, y'all, we got to cut down. You know, we want to reduce energy. We want to reduce the climate. You know, we want to affect climate change. So either side of the spectrum you're on, you know, there's a majority Democrat that say, hey, this is what we want to push. So the implications of this is those 48% of black farmers who's getting their revenue from livestock, that's going to affect your operation. The white farmers, farmers of any ethnicity, it's going to affect your operation. So if you understand that this is a practical reaction to, you know, just political changes, environmental changes, how are we as a people, as a consumer base, as entrepreneurs, how are we reacting to this? Can we get mad at Bill Gates? If we are mad at Bill Gates, what can we do to compete and compensate it?
Now, when it comes to the synthetic beef, as it states right there and on the banner, you know, he's pushing for rich nations to shift to synthetic beef, And he was actually asked about this in the MIT Technology Review. They asked Bill Gates, do you think plant-based and lab-grown meats could be the full solution to the protein problem globally, even in poor nations? Or do you think it's going to be some fraction because of the things you're talking about, the cultural love of a hamburger and the way livestock is so central to economies around the world? And Bill Gates says that for Africa and other poor countries, we'll have to use animal genetics to dramatically raise the amount of beef per emissions for them. Weirdly, the U.S. livestock, because they're so productive, the emissions per pound of beef are dramatically less than the emissions per pound in Africa. And as a part of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's work, we're taking the benefit of the African livestock, which means they can survive in the heat, and crossing in the monstrous productivity, both on the meat side and the milk side of the elite U.S. beef lines. Why is Bill Gates so interested in Africa?
You know, where does every resource that drives humanity, not just humanity, but civilization, you know, the things, our phones, this is coltan. You know, our iPads and laptops, all of this is coltan that is harvested out of the ground in Africa. Gold has been the universal metal of trade. You know, this is a thing of value historically, you know, going back to the Anunnaki, so to speak. So saying that to say all of the things that are valuable to the billions of people on this planet, they naturally occur in Africa. I think we kind of deviate away from the value, the material, mineral value of here in the West and what we call North America, Central America, and South America. You ask the question, why is he so interested? I mean, he's a money man. He understands money. He evidently, I'm not going to say understands it better than us, but he's determined, like, I'm going to make some money with this. saying that to say I hadn't heard that article that you just said. I thought I think that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And once again, we're here for solutions. I think we can burn a lot of time talking about what people are doing. I mean, what's understood, overstood doesn't need to be explained. Africa and livestock. So think about it. I'm kind of going away, but I have to go there to come to answer this question. This WS word that I don't even like to put in my dictionary of words, but for the sake of this conversation, when we talk about white supremacy, it's not an emotional thing that exists. It is a strategy. It is a planning. It is an implementation. It is a collective system. It's not an individual. It is a system that over hundreds of years has become remote controlled to the point of no person that benefits within it. Like, even if I'm born into this, I benefit without trying. Now, how can you fight something that's not trying to fight you? I'm just living, and I just happen to be in a system where it benefits me. When we think about these systems, this is how we get our food. This is how I can go to McDonald's and get my burger, if I'm into that, relatively easy. This is how I can go to Walmart, Kroger, Costco, Publix, and get my meat that I eat easily, because it is a system. This is the complexity why B1AG is so important. Our relative in America, the worst hood in America is luxury compared to some of the worst villages, worst rural areas in some parts of the world. So everything is relative. It's not to deflect away from our justified grievances here, but we also have to put things in perspective of how this whole system works. Here in America, we spend a lot less money on food than other nations around the world. A lot less money on food, meaning I have money for entertainment. I got money for clothes, vehicles, just all of these other things. It's not for me to say whether they're important or not, but you understand, if you don't eat, then nothing else matters. Our food system is delicately put together over hundreds of years, where our part of it was we built it. Our ancestors' hands built it, what we understand as the Western concept of the food system. They built it. Free labor over X amount of years. Boom, I got all this money that I can just invest around the world to create Bill Gates. Bill Gates is one. He's only one individual of hundreds around the planet who are following suit. Let us get what really matters. I print the dollars, and so they only have you got to ask, if I print the money, what's valuable to me? If I print, what's valuable to you? And so, you learn a lot more by watching than listening or reading, and it's land. So saying that to say, all of this interest in Africa is there's some lions, there's these things that's defending this place, whether they're defending militarily or just by existing, that has all of this wealth. In 2020, after 2020, everything was revealed to us. So now you're left with a choice. Okay, I saw this. If you look at a screen, I can't act like I didn't see what I just saw. And so we're all left with an honest decision. We're all left with an honest decision. If I'm on the side of what we'll call wicked or bad or nefarious, hey, you caught my hand. Now I'm going full steezy. If I'm on the side of righteousness, well, Cain done showed his hand, can't get caught up slipping like Abel. You've seen it. And so this becomes the responsibility of compensation. If we don't like the direction that this food system is going with synthetic beef, this doesn't look good for Africa. This doesn't look good for Africa, what you just read to me. And you got to know that it's going to inevitably infect the melanated B1 family here in North America, as well as the white farmers. But for the sake of our conversation, this is going to affect our black farmers, especially if you understand this is the largest source of revenue for black farmers is the livestock. The purpose of pushing it to rich nations, who dictates what the rest of the world does? You're not going to trump a rich nation. I'm not here to push ideology on anybody. I'm a firm believer. I'm not a believer. I'm a practitioner of what I am. The great I am, my piece of what I am, right? and I'm still learning. But the concept is there's an activity. I was talking to somebody earlier, and I don't want to delve too far away, but this is crazy, man. Can you fight a war passively? Whether you're talking physical, economic, spiritual, however you want to frame war or conflict. If I'm on the field, can I be a passive, meek linebacker if I want to stop this team from scoring? Can I be a passive center and stop this team from scoring? Can I be a passive point guard And so when we think about agriculture, is there a passive way that suddenly just the world fixes its problems? Bill Gates, as well as what he represents he's only one small pixel in a much bigger screen. Let's not worry about what he's doing. We see what's done. Now, what are we prepared to do to compensate that? I can go to a store right now while they're open and buy a picket sign and say, I don't like this. I don't like this. No fake beef. No fake beef. I don't like this. I don't like this. No fake beef. No fake beef. Black farmers matter. Black farmers matter. After I put that sign down, what is my actions going to do? Am I going to change my eating habits? You know, as a parent, I know my kids need protein. That's just the nature of living. They need protein. Where do we find protein? You know, you can get it from beans. You can't, you know, there are a lot of vegan diets, vegetarian diets, but practically speaking, you know, I'm just coming from a research standpoint. I'm still learning, but there are some deficiencies when we don't consume meat in some areas. You know, in America, we can go to a Whole Foods, we can go to a health store and get healthy, viable, plant-based products if we want to go vegan. But if you're in some of these what we'll classify as third world nations, it's not that easy. And so, yes, they do need meat. And so saying that to say, is it right to switch everything to synthetic? If you don't think it should, what are we prepared to do to keep it natural? Is it a thing of reducing our desire for beef? Is it a thing of finding another animal that doesn't take as much land up? And so we know the goats are a source of protein as well. You can actually fit more goats per acre than livestock, I think, than cows. Cows are like 2 or 3 acres per head, typically speaking, you know, for a year of how much they would need to eat, whereas you can get like 10 goats on that same amount of space. And so, as well as eating through forests, when we think about agroforestry, you know, just kind of throwing some ideas for people that are real interested in what are we going to do about our meat supply.
You know, a broader reaching thing for me is, what are we going to do when our only choice that we have that they are offering is going to be genetically modified or synthetic meats? Eat it.
We've lived long. You and me have lived long enough. I'm gonna use hip hop for example, and everything I'm saying with hip hop, apply this to food. Right at the time, it was just, you know, get it from the ground. People got backyard gardens. This thought of having a yard where you don't grow anything in, that's new. That's American. Because most places around the world, the whole purpose of having property is to produce something. I have a business on my property. There's something I'm making. There's a service, right? So when we think about music, I remember a time where your destiny was based on how much you're going to get out there. You didn't have to have a record label. You know, Master P proved label with no record label. I just get out my trunk. I'll drive around, go to all these places and sell my product. You look 10 years later, this is before MySpace, but you had CDs now. And it kind of got, okay, if I want to sell my music, it has to be a CD. You know, back in the Chitlin circuit, to get this good music, you got to go to this juke joint and see it, or you got to get an 8-track, right? But we fast forward, okay, now you have to have a CD. It ain't no tape players for you to put this CD in. So you as a consumer, if you want my music, you now have to have a CD player. Fast forward, okay, if you ain't got social media, you're not going to be able to keep up with your greatest artists. So, wow, to get social media, I have to have a computer to keep up with my favorite artists. You know, nothing nefarious. Fast forward. Now to hear my favorite artists, I have to have social media. I have to have a email account, have to subscribe to this to be able to have access to my favorite artists. Your favorite artists, no matter how creative they are, you might be like, you know what, I'm going to buck the system. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. I'm going to go old school Master P, no limit, out the trunk. Nobody has a CD player for you. What are you going to sell? You can't sell invisible streams. And so what's happened, and like I said, everything I'm saying about music applies to our food system. You literally, and so you can call it good or bad. You're going to have people that I produce a thing and I want to sell it. We've gotten to a point where the way we sell our food has been bottlenecked into the hands of a few. And no matter how we feel about it, you know, nobody wants to be the team that keeps getting beat. But if you don't practice differently, if you don't do some active recruiting, you'll just keep getting beat. You know, this isn't a thing where we can ask ourselves out of this. This isn't a situation where legislation alone is going to fix it. Maybe the Biden administration has all of the best intentions in the world. Maybe the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, the people, the Bilderbergs, all of these groups, maybe they absolutely have the best intention in mind, and we're just looking so linear or three-dimensional we don't understand. Or maybe it is the worst thing in the world. Maybe it is the worst thing in the world. But as you and I sit on this stream right now, whichever way it is, what are we prepared to do about it? What are we prepared to do about it? Like I said, we have certain freedoms, if you want to call it that people around the world don't have. And we're watching every day how we're getting bottlenecked into limited choices. You know, music, we don't need to eat music. My children don't need music to survive and become functional adults, to face the challenges of the world, to get to the next generation. They don't need entertainment, right? And so, you know, maybe we can't find no more CD players. Maybe the internet goes down and I can't listen to none of my music. Maybe I can't plug my phone in the wall. Now I can't. Do you see how dependent the basic thing of listening to music now is? You have to be plugged into the system. And so I would say with something like entertainment, hey, get it how you live. You don't need entertainment, but if you want it, this is the cost you pay to play. Do we want as a community? Do we want as a nation, whatever you box yourself into, do you want your food system dependent on somebody that says, I want, you know, I think we'll do better off with fake beef, synthetic beef? What's to say 50 years down the road when as more people get on this planet, somebody like, I don't think they should eat at all. We're just going to feed them cardboard. Well, if we don't do something today or yesterday in 2021, guess what happens in 2050? You would have had no foundation built to address whatever 2050 turns into. It's not good. It's not bad. What do they say? It's better to be prepared than to try to get prepared. Are we having these conversations? Are we actively during my day? Okay, there's nobody here to watch me to see if I'm trying to make connections and relationships with local farmers. I never had to worry about it because I always had a store, but a little bird came on my shoulder and told me, hey, it's some fishy things going on with our food system. And, you know, the Most High, whatever you call it, gave us the senses. Before you teach your kids how to read and talk, you teach your kids how to eat. And so for the fact many of our kids know how to read and talk before they know the concept of growing a garden, that tells you how dependent we are. And you know, once again, in B1, we don't come from a victim standpoint. We come from victors. What can we do to be victorious over whatever it is, weird thing we may perceive as an impediment to the Black family being at its optimal existence? We're going to have to do something about our food security, bro. We're going to have to do something about the food security. It's not a Chicken Little moment. The beauty is this has happened thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times on planet Earth in the universe, where civilization came to a point where, hey, my food system is dependent on something that's just not governing it right. I don't like how it's governed. And it seems like they're eating a lot more than this group over here. And if this group doesn't take its natural adaptations to address this, if I don't take my horns and figure out how to use them, if I don't take my claws, my teeth, figure out how to use them, you reach zero. It's a scientific term. You exhaust yourself. Colony collapse. You're done. And guess what? The world's going to keep spinning. So as a community, as a family, food is the first thing. We have all of these entertainment issues going on right now, but I think these food conversations this is every day. This is every day. Not in a scary way, but hey, son, hey, daughter, I want you to make something big happen. We know this world is changing. There's going to be more people. This is a bigger trap. I want you to have something very strategic and useful that ain't going to give you better karma to trap. If you can come up with a better way to keep people healthy than coming up with synthetic meat, by all means do it. As a parent, okay, maybe I can't be the big timer during my lair, but I can create a community that can support these great minds, these better ideas than synthetic beef. You see what I'm saying? Bill Gates didn't happen overnight. First, I got you used to my computers. Then I got you used to me funding all your organizations. Then I got into your government, funding all of them. So now, hey, I don't even need a medical degree, and I'm dictating what can get put in your body. So whether you hate it or love it, what have you done to do otherwise? No, I don't see that picket sign. I can fly over it. I never saw your picket sign.
Which is why here at B1AG, we do push for us to be involved with our local food system. We do push for us to get reconnected with nature and earth and know how to grow, know how to produce, know how to feed ourselves, refuel yourself. Really just thinking along the lines of survival. You know, when we eat, we you know, some people eat and it's something that, oh, you know, I'm gonna take a picture of my plate and put it on social media, you know, just to show how everybody I'm eating. But in the actuality, you're refueling yourself. You know, the body is the human body really is the first computer. It's the first machine, and it's a wonderfully built machine.
How long have people been eating bacon for breakfast?
A long time, and I have a problem.
What's a long time?
I would guess tens of thousands of years.
No, 1900s, Hormel, excess of pork. You know, one of the first value-added products in North America. I'm gonna market this with a TV that this is something you eat in the morning. Bacon. Thus, we have bacon. Thus, bacon is now synonymous with breakfast. Bacon is no different than a ham hock, no different than a pork chop. It is a piece of animal. And Hormel masterfully, and this goes back to our marketing conversation, social marketing. We have all of this. We have this piece of pork, like, it's not really prime cuts that people eat. And so how can we don't want to waste none of this pig. I had to feed it all year, you know, chase it around. So I want to make every dollar, every cent I can off of this pig. And so Hormel mastered the concept of, I'm going to introduce this bacon as a part of your breakfast. Now in 2021, bacon is synonymous with breakfast. We can't imagine breakfast without bacon, right? And this turned into turkey bacon, which is a whole new market for turkey producers. Vegan or vegetable bacon. So you see what I'm saying? The marketing is everything. Synthetic meat at a time. You know, if I don't show my children the concept of what a real steak looks like, what a cow looks like, hey, this is the process how this steak got on your plate, this burger got on the steak. By the time my kids are 15, 16 years old, actually younger than that, able to process information. If on TV they see this concept of a star-shaped fake beef burger, if they see that as normal, that becomes normal to them. And so to say anything other is going to draw rebellion. Like, Mom, how are you going to tell me that I can't eat this star-shaped beef? It's the best thing in the world. Because if they didn't know any different, how would they know different? They're not the ones going to the store purchasing the food. You know what I'm saying? And so once again, this goes to a lot of us, you know, we're hitting some karma points in our lives where we realize what did Drake 3000 say? The consequence is of living. You live a while and you realize, okay, I got to give something back. You know, I'm not wealthy by any means when it comes to fiat. You know, I feel like I'm wealthy in blessings in life. But when we think, I can just speak for myself. As a consumer, I've consumed a lot in what we call North America. Never been a baller at all. Never had a lot of money at all, but I've consumed a lot. You know, whenever it was cold, I always had a warm space. Whenever it was hot, I had somewhere cool to go to. Whenever I had any urge to eat, or there was always something I could just readily go get. Once I started driving, it hadn't been too many times. You know, if it's somewhere I want to go, whether I just want to ride around, I was able to do that. All of these things cost. You know, the relatively cheap gas I can go put in my car just to ride around because I'm mad and bored. Okay, somebody's land was taken. You know, somebody's village, tribe was decimated for this process to happen. So once again, Bill Gates is a result, just like with the computers. Bill Gates is a result of a consumer demand. That's not good. That's not bad. This is the demand we have. We want beef a lot. It's a lot more of us that's going to want beef. Bill Gates had the knowledge to be like, hey, you know what? Since all of these people are going to want these products, and they've already bought into, some of them have already bought into the Impossible Burger. You know, this vegan lifestyle. All of this is marketed. All of this is marketed. These are words that didn't exist until you saw it on the TV, in the Vogue magazine, in the Essence magazine, in the Lifestyle magazine. Marketing is everything. So how do we market the importance of healthy food alternatives? It would be foolish for me to come on here and say, man, ban all synthetic meat. Never, never, never synthetic meat. No fake meat. What's it going to stop? What's it going to stop? You know, my whole thing is, what are we doing to counter that? What are we doing as an alternative? Since we know that there's, I don't think there's going to be spaceships coming down zapping your garden, right? You know, you see some places there's laws where you're not supposed to grow in certain spaces. But I think we shouldn't get so caught in cynicism that we overlook the resources that we have right in front of our faces. People are resources, skill sets and knowledge are resources. And so when you can codify around something that's commonly useful, and I think our food system is commonly useful. It doesn't matter what you do when you close your door at night. It doesn't matter what your habit is with. When you show up at this common thing we want to do, when you bring your mind at this common objective of creating a more secure, healthy food system, all of these other things that divide us as a people within the B1AG family kind of become arbitrary. But I know at this moment in time, there's something that we're going to have to be in the process of building on. We've already had ancestors to build foundations, the Booker T. Watleys, right? We've already had this work been put in a long time ago. We took a break on the construction site. We had some other groups come in on the construction site. You know, we took a break. And so my thing is, it's time for us to go back to the construction site and finish building this thing like it can be. It can only be built sustainably by the people who started building it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, and we're constantly talking about this, and we're trying to get this conversation started, and also to grow the conversation about agriculture and returning back to the garden and just becoming more agrarian in our approach to solve these problems, because we do need solutions. We do need alternatives, because if we can't produce our own alternatives or our own solutions, the only thing that we're going to be left to deal with is what they provide for us. And like you say, not saying that's good, not saying that's bad, but, you know, we've kind of gotten used to having choices, and especially when we're talking about choices in survival. So do you have anything you'd like to say, Farmer Brian, to wrap up for today in the synthetic food?
I have a dream. I have a dream that one day in hoods and cuts and backwoods across America, we're producing foods. There's no yard made useless. Yards where there's no grass, no soil, there's raised beds, there's vertical systems, there's aquaponic systems.
Word.
The brothers and sisters out in rural America that feel alone, feel like there's no support, the trap gods of America are flooding, making it rain on this black soil. I have a dream that the farmers markets are popping like the Carter. Young cats, the cool girls, the cool dudes, when they think about, man, I'm going to shop today, I'm going to spend my dollar, my Bitcoin, my blockchain, whatever our money turns into, it is a part of my nature to spend with somebody that looks like me. And the second nature, I don't got to confuse myself with the word black, melanated, autochthonous, indigenous, Hebrew. I shop with mine, and it's normal. Oh, yes, 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 I have a dream that the energy sector, where we represent less than 1% of primary operators and only 9% of workforce. Agriculture, where we only represent 1.4% of primary operators. I have a dream that we flood these positions. I have a dream that we steer this place where it's supposed to be. This land that our ancestors called Turtle Island, or Mexum, whatever we want, Alkebalon, all around the world. I have a dream that we come together and get our food system popping how it can be. The people who have had to survive with the least and be the most creative, to me, sound like the most formidable people to lead the world in uncertain times. These are the melanated people around the world. It ain't just American blacks. It is anybody that is oppressed because of your sun-kissed nature. And to me, in my modest opinion, this is it, our food system. Who needs politics when you can't eat? Once truth has been revealed to you, then the burden to act upon it is upon us. Are we having the conversations within our households about career choices, about entrepreneurial endeavors? Are we having these conversations about, okay, what if I never get Social Security? What if I don't retire? How, what does healthcare look like in 2040? When a lot of us who came up in the turn-up culture become elders. Healthy life comes through healthy food. To me, in our community, this is the most undivisive, tangible objective that we can embark upon. How do we feed ourselves? How do we feed our communities? I ain't got nothing to say, man.
Well, we definitely need to grow harder, to make it through to 2050. And the best way to know how to grow harder, because if you really want to know something,
lose the ego and learn how to grow something.
Grow harder. B1AGers, have a wonderful day. Stay warm, and bring you some more of this daily bread tomorrow. And it's going to be real bread, not synthetic. All right, y'all take it easy.